So a couple weeks ago in my F1 review, I said it's pretty much downhill for the rest of the year, but I neglected to mention that I thought Superman actually looked kind of good. I saw the teaser trailer and thought it looked retarded and made no sense, but then the second trailer came out and I thought, okay, this actually does look kind of good. Oh my god, we're up to like what, our fifth iteration of Superman and like our fourth DC universe in the last decade. I can remember just months ago people saying that James Gunn is supposed to be the savior of DC, and now it just feels like all those people are wishing that they bit their tongues. When are Hollywood celebrities gonna learn to keep their mouths shut about politics and just social issues in general? Does James Gunn have nothing to learn from Rachel Zegler and Anthony Mackie? Because he does the exact same thing that Anthony Mackie did before Captain America came out. He said in an interview last week that Superman is the story of America, an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country, but for me, it is mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something that we have lost. Yeah, all you guys out there who just want to live a normal life and not get throat raped by progressive politics and actually want to see good movies, you guys are the ones that don't understand basic human kindness, and you guys are the ones that are making America so bad. Then he says obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it's about kindness, but screw them. It's insane to me how many of these people are so marinated by this delusion that anyone who criticizes them simply lacks basic human kindness, instead of we just don't want to be lectured and just want to go watch a good movie. You ever wonder why I constantly complain about people like Alex Garland and Neil Druckmann? It's because they're selfish writers who don't give a shit about what their audience thinks, and they say it out loud. I'm going to start calling these kinds of people honey badgers because they just don't give a shit. And I know some people are going to say that this is a stretch or that I'm reaching here, but as an amateur film critic with the analytical precision of a legal expert in this field, the only conclusion that I can come to about this is that James Gunn turned this story from a classic American dream immigrant allegory into a story about an an undocumented migrant who has to suffer in modern day America. The whole fucking point of Superman is that he's an immigrant who assimilates to good old traditional farm bred rural American values, and then he takes those values to the big city that's ridden with crime and bad guys and just serves as an example for good. Not kindness, but just moral good. And I know some people are going to think that I'm this cultish MAGA supporter for saying this. I'm really not, and I don't like to get directly involved in politics on this channel, but James Gunn is the one who brought it up. Guess what percentage of Americans support Trump's border policy and immigration policy? The answer is around 56%, which I know doesn't sound like much, but considering that's basically his main issue, a majority approval just shows that while America is trying to return to a sense of normalcy, Hollywood is just this cancerous echo chamber that's doing everything it can to prevent that. And what's funny about this whole thing is that he didn't even really need to say any of this, because yeah, he said that the movie is supposed to be political, but when you watch it, it doesn't really come off that political. So it's like he wants to tell this profound allegory of illegal immigration in modern America, but it just ends up coming off idiotic or whatever. Even David Corenswet, the guy who plays Superman in this movie, refused to even say the motto of the character he's playing. I'm gonna say it, so for all the snowflakes out there, this is probably gonna be the most offensive thing I've ever said on my channel, so just a quick trigger warning for you guys. The phrase that this man refused to say is truth, justice, and the American way. It's insane to me that the Overton window has shifted so far to the left that people like me who say American values are actually good are labeled as hateful, and then the people who refuse to say these sorts of things call people like me unpatriotic for saying them. Anyways, this movie was supposed to be the movie that saved superhero movies, but I guess we got a funeral to plan now, because this movie, I can't believe how incompetent it is. No, Fantastic Four is not our last hope here. We all know how that's going to turn out. This movie is the death of superhero movies, while Fantastic Four is just going to be shitting on the corpse of it. I will be talking spoilers in this review, so if you want my final verdict spoiler free, skip to this time in the video. If I have to give this movie credit for 3 things, I would start off by saying that the cinematography is definitely the best part about this movie. For the most part, there's scenes that are bizarre, over the top, and just pointless. I never knew that a mug shattering could be so dramatic. But overall, it is a good theater experience, and the feel of this movie is definitely interesting. The CGI is also good too, I guess. I hate the way they use it in this movie, but for what it is, it's definitely really good. The dog is obviously CGI 100%, but it is still the best CGI dog I've seen. Nicholas Hoult as a bad guy is actually really good. He's got that punchable face that's not punchable to the point where the movie is unwatchable. His dialogue is a bit fucked, but we'll get into that later because that's a serious problem with this movie. And last but not least, it is a funny movie. It's not as funny as like Guardians of the Galaxy, I would say, but it is still funny though. The only drawback to this is that for this movie to work as a comedy movie, you pretty much just have to pretend that it's not a Superman movie, which brings me to my main issue with this film. The tone of this movie is completely wrong. Superman is the most powerful household superhero, and because he represents moral good and tremendous responsibility, he should and needs to be taken 100% seriously. This is why I loved Man of Steel despite all the problems it had. But in this movie, the S doesn't stand for Superman. It stands for shit, so that the writers can shit all over his chest. His character is made out to be silly, childish, incompetent, and highly inexperienced, yet we're supposed to believe that he's been Superman for 3 years at this point. They tried to do what Spider-Man Homecoming did, where it's like, we all know the origin story, we don't need to see it for the 100th time, but like, they give us no context for this iteration other than a pointless attempt at a poetic Rule of 3 title prologue. Instead of coming off as a post-origin reboot like it's trying to, it just feels like some sort of Mandela effect where there were 3 films that came before this, but we just don't know where they went. And again, it just doesn't make sense that he's been Superman for 3 full years at this point, has never lost a battle, and then just proceeds to get pissed on for the rest of the movie. The dialogue is really chaotic. It's not that it's bad or anything, it's just so quickly paced that you either miss what the characters are saying or what they're saying just comes off really incoherent. I'll give you guys an example. For context, Superman tells Lex Luthor that he's driven by envy, and Luthor responds by saying, "I'm aware that envy consumes my every waking moment. Whenever someone mentions Galileo or Einstein or one of these other twits in the same breath as me, I feel vomit burn the back of my throat. But at least Galileo did something. He wasn't some dopey Venusian catapulted onto this planet just to have the world fawn over him because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are. So my envy is a calling. It is the sole hope for humanity because it has driven me to annihilate you." Apparently you're media illiterate if you have to play this back a few times just to understand what he's getting at. Another problem with this movie is that there's way too many side characters. The amount of side characters in this movie is fine, but the problem is that Superman is one of those heroes that needs to have the screen to himself. He commands the audience's attention, but this movie sidelines him among other characters like Lois Lane, who disappears for a good chunk of the plot. They added Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl accomplishes so much in this movie. They add Crypto the dog, and then Superwoman or whatever. And then I don't know if this character is from the comics or anything, but they derail the plot when these 2 idiots unleash this little monster that grows to the size of a skyscraper. And from what I can tell, this accomplishes absolutely nothing in the plot. They just take the thing out, and then it's just completely forgotten after that. The story is a mess. The main plot line of this movie is debatable, but what I would say it boils down to is basically Superman is having a bit of a PR issue, and it's giving Lex Luthor more leverage over him, and he just needs to stop Lex Luthor. In reality, this story is just made from side plots. There's one side story where a powerful country wants to invade a smaller, more vulnerable country. Real subtle, you guys. There's another side plot where the government is after Superman and he just has to deal with all of his PR issues, which I actually do like the PR theme in these superhero IPs, but After 4 seasons of The Boys and just all the Hollywood pandering to Gen Z, I'm just over it. And I'm not talking about like catering to younger audiences. I'm talking about like Skibbity Riz, Ohio shit. They have to deal with the earth literally splitting in half. It's just a mess. And the ending has almost nothing to do with any of this. Basically, Lex Luthor just gets exposed because even though he's like the only smart character in this movie, he decided to date a bimbo who leaks an ass ton of his secret plans to one of Superman's coworkers. It was just unearned, and it felt like it was something they had to throw together at the end to make the plot work. The over-the-top supernatural elements are a bit of a problem too in this movie. The shit that happens in this movie is the same type of shit that you would see in like a Doctor Strange movie. To me, Superman is an extraordinary being in an ordinary world, but this movie just makes it seem like Superman is an extraordinary being in an even more extraordinary world. It was just a little bit too much for the first movie of a reboot. I mean, overall, this movie is just, on one hand, an outlet for James Gunn to get out all of his frustration with people who criticized him for making tasteless jokes that pissed everyone off. I'm talking 9/11, the Holocaust, rape, and pedophilia, dude. But on the other hand, it's just yet another instance of Hollywood getting an inch and taking a mile with this woke shit. I know everyone wants to say that wokeness is dying off and that Hollywood is abandoning the woke agenda, and to a degree I think that's true, but then you see these celebrities defend it and double down on it right before their movie comes out. They'll refuse to even say the phrase American way, and it just seems like they're never going to give it up until either they die or Hollywood dies. But that was Superman. For my final verdict, I'll be ruling against this movie at 35%. Superhero movies are dead. Audiences are burnt out, and big studios don't care about good storytelling anymore. So if we ever want that to change, we need to start saving our money and go watch Man of Steel or literally any other Superman. Anyways, that's it for me. If you enjoyed my review, please consider dropping a like and hitting subscribe, but that's all for this case. This court is adjourned.